Good evening and welcome to Cajun Talk, a public affairs presentation of KAJN. I'm your host, Tiffiany Babineau. Tonight, our guest is Brother Eric Wowoh.
Right.
And he's the founder and executive director of Change Agent Network. And he's joining us tonight to talk about his new book, one of 3 books that will be coming out, Return of a Refugee. Let me share with you a bit of his story. Eric lived with his parents in Liberia, Africa. As a young child, his life was peaceful and stable until a brutal war broke out in 1989. When Eric was 12, he was captured by rebel fighters. They beat and tortured him, but he was miraculously saved. He left his country and became an international refugee in exile. And as a teenager, he lived in 11 different refugee camps in 12 different nations in West Africa and was separated from his entire family for 20 years. And tonight, we're joined with the author of this emotional true life story, the story of Eric Wowoh, Return of a Refugee. Welcome to the program, Eric.
Thank you. Very grateful to be here today. Thank you for the opportunity.
I'm just excited to have you in the studio with us.
Yeah, but thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be here today with you in the studio.
All right. What can you tell us about your new book and why have you decided to share your story now?
Well, the new book, it just came out. It was actually published in November last year, 2016. And then I published it because I felt like, we all have a story. God has that story He's written concerning every one of us' life. And the stories are not the same. It's different, different people, different faces, different locations of the world. But that's just one story each of us have. And sometimes some of us kind of reject the story. And sometimes we shy away from it, ashamed of it or afraid or, and then don't want to embrace that story. And we want somebody else's story. So I felt like, with all that I have been through as a child growing up, I've seen the very worst that life has to offer growing up in Africa as a child from a broken home, no background, poverty, and then coming over here to see the very best that the world has to offer. America is the very best of the world right now. It's the palace of the world. And being able to look at what's going on both sides, it's nothing but stories unfolding on both sides of the world. So I feel God is, He's the author of that story. He just wrote it about my life, and I'm just the character. So I thought it's important to share this with what I owe. I owe this to the generation coming after me and the generation before, and to the people around here to just say, hey, here's my own story. I survived these things, and if I could survive them, you can survive yours. Right. It doesn't matter what you have going on in your life. It's not as worse as this. So we can talk about your story, but here's my story, and let's see where your place is in this bigger story of what's going on.
Right, and like I said, it's one of 3 books.
Right.
So this book entails about your life in the beginning.
Right, and how I got to Lafayette, how I was born, what was life like for my parents back in Africa growing up, and then when I was born into that situation which I never chose, I had no power, no control over whatsoever. What was that life like? And then the Civil War broke out in Liberia. What was it like during the course of the war? Mm-hmm. Then living in refugee camps for over a decade. What was that journey like? Just wandering, in West Africa in different refugee camps. And then being brought over to Lafayette, Louisiana in 2006 without a passport, no luggage, no check-in bags, without anything, except for the pants that I had on and the shirt. And arriving here and then having this vision to go back like the prophet Nehemiah in the Bible, who was a refugee and a cupbearer in the king palace. And every time he kept asking questions about his home, Jerusalem. Well, how is Jerusalem doing? What's happening over there? And the news coming to him in the palace was not a good news. It was a real bad news. It wasn't good. And the king could tell that he was struggling with something. And the king asked him the question, what's going on? And he said, I need your blessing. I need your permission to return to Jerusalem to rebuild the destroyed walls for the people over there. And the king said, there you have it. You go and take care of that. So when I was brought here as a refugee, I see myself in the same story that America is the palace of the world today. And I'm here and I live with Americans. I know what they are capable of doing. I know what they can do, and I cannot afford to keep quiet on that story. It's to say, here is the story, and all I'm asking is your blessings, your support, your prayers to send me back to Liberia so that we can bring hope and opportunity to the children who have been forgotten and lost in the process
We'll
and
talk
keep
a
that
little
sort
bit
of.
about that. But Eric, as I said, you have an amazing life story, and you're still on the journey
Oh yeah.
right now. But without giving away the story away from your book, but what was like in you said you lived a normal life, and then it was unstable for
Yeah.
a bit.
That's why I say it's a God story, because I never chose any of that. If God has consulted with me as to what was going to happen, probably I would have chosen a different path, right?
Right.
Now, I wasn't born in a Christian home. My parents were what we called African religion worshippers.
Right.
That's the mixture of voodoo and juju, witchcraft, worship of dead animals, and spiritism. So that's what I was grew up in, and we never heard about the name of Jesus in our family. We thought it was some foreign religion, intended to brainwash kids to become rebellious against their parents. So we didn't want to be bothered with that. Christianity was never very close to us at all. So that's where we grew up. So my parents, that's all they knew, and that's what I grew up. I saw them doing that, and that was the way of life. They were not educated people either. So we live in a home with dirt floor, thatched roof. There's little or nothing to hope for. But for us, we didn't know we were suffering. So as a young child growing up, then we had to help our parents go on a farm to provide for the family to eat. You got to work on the farm. And we ate one meal a day. And most times around 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the night, there was not a regular full 3-square meal to eat. It was just one time. And but that was life. And that was like the best part of life, because we were not running around because of Civil War. We were not away from our homes. Everybody was together. We were all together in the home. So for us, that was that's what I call the good old days.
So you didn't have faith. So how did you get through the torture and everything that you went through?
And that's where the God factor comes into this whole story. And there's no way you can share a story like this without saying God.
But God.
Yeah, but God every step along the way. So it was like that until the war broke out. When the Civil War broke out, I used to go fishing as a 10, 11, 9 years old boy. We used to go fishing to get fish for the family to eat. So there was no food in the entire country once the war broke out. Everything got seized and shut down. No flight coming in, no flight going out of the whole country. So my mom asked me to go fishing. Okay, because that's what I used to do. So I go fishing with a bunch of teenagers, and we spent 2 days on the river fishing. And then on our way back from this 2 days fishing trip, we were caught by rebel fighters. They captured our homes, they captured our villages, and they prevented us from entering our town. And they said, "We are fighting a war here. Who do you support? Whose side are you on?" And I'm standing there, I don't know what to say. So I just said, "I don't know." And they said, "Well, there's no neutral ground here. It's either you are with us or you are against us. And if you are against us, we're going to kill you." So that was when I was tied up, tortured, beaten, and thrown into jail for 2 days. And the ropes, I was tied up so tight that my elbows from the front got to meet in the back, behind my back. And that cut off the circulation of my blood for those 2 nights. So when I was brought out 2 days later to decide on what I was going to do, and the ropes were removed, I realized that my arms became paralyzed, because my blood stopped flowing for 2 nights. So at that point, the commander in charge, another 14-year-old, 15-year-old boy, said, "Leave him. We can't kill him. Let him go, because he's useless to himself. There's no way he's going to be able to do anything for himself. So there's no point in killing him. Just let him go." So that was how I was set free from that. But I was never allowed to go home. I was asked to go in the opposite direction. And that was the beginning of the 20 years journey. By the grace of God, a Red Cross worker from Switzerland helped me to leave Liberia, across the border into Ivory Coast, which is a French-speaking country. And they didn't know what my parents were, and my parents didn't know what I was. And that was the beginning of my journey for the next 20 years.
Right. And that's how you got the revelation of Nehemiah.
Right.
Out of all of that.
Out of that.
Wow. If you're just joining us, once again, we're here with Brother Eric Wowoh, founder and executive director of Change Agent Network, joining us to talk about how his new book, Return of a Refugee, the story of Eric Wowoh, actually he's joining us today to talk about that. Now, in 2002, Eric, that's when we met. Eric was 23 at the time, and a friend gave him a computer. He learned how to use the computer and began training other refugees from all over the continent of Africa, eventually impacting the lives of many across the world. And in 2006, actually, that's when we met, he relocated to Acadiana, Louisiana, USA through a refugee resettlement program. He arrived in the U.S. with no luggage, no passport, no ID, no phone, no money, no nothing, no friends. But by the grace of God and with the help of many, he established Change Agent Network, an international nonprofit organization that is contributing to the world in big ways and transforming Liberia through education. And as I said, this is around the time that I met you, and you were with the Assemblies of God and Brother Tommy Falk, Pastor Tommy Falk.
Exactly.
At that time. So what did you think about Cajun culture at that time?
Man, it was I'm still going through this kind of culture shock every single day in America. It never stops, I get it. You can imagine that having lived throughout Africa from refugee camp to other one danger to another danger, and overnight, it was strange when I was told that we were coming to America. Right? I didn't know what to expect. I had no idea. I've been going away from my home, Liberia, for 14 years and living in other countries. Now I'm going to cross the Dead Sea. I'm going to cross the Atlantic Ocean, 700,000 miles away, to a place I don't know anybody, a culture I don't understand, people I don't know what they're up to, the value. I just don't know.
Did you connect with your family again?
Yeah, I did later on in 2008, much later, just 2008. So when I got here, just the first shock was I was picked up from the airport in Lafayette. These were huge airports from Frankfurt, Germany, to Chicago Airport, to Houston Airport. It was crazy. I thought these were a bunch of aliens I was among, and I'm like, I don't know what to think of this. But you know how the Americans call people weird? Right. Yeah, so they were so weird to me. I'm like, who are these people? What are they up to? So we arrived here, and the lady who picked me up from the airport in Lafayette, Miss Margaret, she works for the Catholic Diocese of Lafayette. I looked through the car windows as we drove from the airport to UPA, Place Apartments. It's just an apartment area next to UL. So I looked through the windows, and I couldn't see a single soul walking in the street. So I was curious enough. So I said, where is everybody? In Africa, we walk everywhere, You see people constantly in the street. They never go to sleep. So where are all these people? What town is this? Who are these people? And she's like, they all driving cars. I'm like, what? All of you drive cars out here? So how do you get direction when you want to get around? And she said, well, there's something called a GPS. I'm like, GPS? I'm just getting off the plane from Africa. It was just, that's the first culture shock of many. Sure. So I arrived at my apartment that night, and she started showing me the microwave, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what did these
culture shock?
Yeah, what do these people do with 10 pillows on the bed?
And let's not even get started about Buddha and gumbo.
Yeah, gumbo. Yeah. So I'm still learning, but it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey just being here. The opportunity given to me to live in Acadiana and be able to take what's been given to me back to the people in Liberia.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. What does Change Agent Network mean and its purpose, and how is the network doing now?
Well, Change Agent Network is just a network of change agents, people who are tired of what's going on in our world. They fed up with what's happening in the family, in the community, in the churches, and they want to see change. And we are just the network that helping to connect these people. So we're just a connector, bring people together to talk about the issues of our time, what's happening on our watch. God gave us the ability and the control and the power to determine what happened in our world. It doesn't matter what's going on in Liberia here. It doesn't have to be either or. It can be both. We can talk about what's happening in Acadia, and we can still talk about what's happening all the way in Liberia. It's one word, with one God, one people that have been put in charge to determine this. So that's where we got a name from. And our purpose is to change the mind, the hearts of people. I believe if you change the mind of the person, change their life. So that's why we got involved with Christ-centered education in Liberia, or Christian education in Liberia. We want to give children a foundation first in Christ, and then we can teach them how to earn a good living, and then also learn how to live well. Or else you're going to have smart devils, and that is a big problem.
Okay. Absolutely right. Eric, in your book, you write, we are all called to live our lives for a course greater than ourselves. Could you expound more on that?
Well, I think that's for those who are Christians, and even if you are not a Christian, I think life become meaningless when it has no, when there's no, when we are not doing anything that's bigger than who we are, what we have, what we own. At the end of the day, we are going to leave this world broke and busted. Nobody going to take anything out. So the only thing that's going to remain would be the differences we made in the lives of those around us, our family, our neighbors, and other people around the world. The difference we made. That would be the, so that's why I say, and we all are searching for that. We want to be part of something that's much bigger, larger. And what I'm saying is, here's an opportunity for you to break the box and get out of the boat and look at this. This is a big. God created a whole world, not Lafayette, not just a city or town. It's a whole world. 7 billion people live in that world. And he gave us the ability to determine what happened in there. So that's what I call the bigger picture. So we can just see that. I think it gives us a lot of perspective on things that are happening before we begin to fight and complain and play the victim game or the blame game. You want to take a look at where God has got you, where he got you out of 7 billion people in the world.
Right. That's good. So what are some of the chapters in your book, and what's the focus?
There's quite a few in the book. The focus, there are different chapters from childhood to coming to Lafayette. And like I said, this is just the first of 3. Yeah. This is the plain story, what happened, how it was, how this whole thing got started when I got here. Mm-hmm. We built all these 14 schools in Liberia, educating about 3,000 children since 2006, since I came here as a refugee. And that is the mind-blowing aspect of the work. How could you have done that with all the limitations, with all the lack of resources, lack of connection, not knowing anybody? How could you have done that? So that's what we say is a God thing. So the second book would focus more on the impact of that work. Mm-hmm. What has come out of that story? What has been the effect of the story in the lives of people right here in the KAJN? A lot of people have got involved. Lots of people from this area have been to Africa with me, been to Liberia, back and forth. Yeah, I think about 50 to 100 or so from Mali areas have been over there. Even from here, Crowley, I know some people from right here that have gone over there. Dr. Joe Holden, he used to work down the street from the studio here, that went to Liberia. In fact, he spent a month over there at one of the schools, working there, as a doctor. And then in Lafayette, we have Trinity Bible Church, which has been a big player in all of this. So they come every year annually to take a look at their sister schools and connect with the local community. God give us communities all over the world, and
are you still taking books and computers?
Yeah. Right now we are in search of a warehouse. Mm-hmm. To keep, we lost our last warehouse, so we ship about 13 containers, 40-foot HQ high containers to Liberia in the last 10 years. So we are in search of a new space. If anybody has a place and think we can make use of in the Lafayette area, something we are open to doing, or KAJN or somewhere in the area.
Okay, so you need a space. What else are the needs?
Another need is that our schools are self-sustaining schools in Liberia. Out of the schools that we have built so far, the kids pay their school fees every day. So we don't collect school fees per month, per semester, or by installment. They pay as they come to school. So it's like 50 cents a day when they come to school, and the 50 cents pays for their uniform, pays for their shoes, pays for school supplies, and in some cases, pay for their medical care at some of the schools. So the 50 cents is very doable because most people in Africa, in these third world nations, live day by day. There's no long-term planning. They're not worried about what's going to happen next week, next year. No, it's about how can we get through today. So the program was designed to meet them at their point of needs and provide the education they need for that day. But in the midst of that, we have like 100 students who cannot still afford to pay the 50 cents a day. Wow. So those 100 kids, we can kick them out. They are in the program. So on our website at KAJN-102.9 FM, there's a link there that helps people, give you the opportunity to sponsor the education of a child for $30 a month. And you're going to receive a picture of your child, and you can come and visit the child, and you're going to get letters from the child at least twice a year, from the child that you sponsor, and you are given the opportunity to come and visit if you want to connect with the child. And, but it makes a big difference. $30 a month is like Starbucks coffee and a croissant, a butter croissant, and some things. Yeah.
Okay, so we can sponsor a family or a child.
Yeah. A child specifically.
A child for $30 a month.
Yeah.
And what's the website?
It's KAJN, CANINTL.org. That's KAJNinternational.org.
All right.
And then you go to the donation page and you will see it there.
All right. Eric Wowoh is our guest today, challenging us as readers of his book to re-examine our worldview of God's role in the ending urgent, dangerous issues happening in their world. Blah, 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 blah. Eric, I wanted to ask you, since you were a refugee, there are many refugees that are coming into our country.
Right.
What do you think the United States stance should be on that?
Well, I think America would do a lot of good work if we can encourage people to return home when they come, if they do make it here. Like, I never chose to come to America, right? It was an opportunity given to me to come here, which I see as a privilege, as an opportunity to be here. This is not my birth home. This is not where God placed me. He created me in Africa, both parents from Africa, and I want to embrace that identity, and I want to keep that. So I'm not a U.S. citizen here. I have a green card, and I'm okay with the green card to be able to take me back and forth. I think most of the problems we have in the world will be solved by the people from those places. They will have to get involved and direct the rest of the world as to what to do in solving those problems. Now, if we all get out, like for instance, Liberia, there are 4.5 million people in Liberia. If all the 4.5 million people get out, then we don't have any problems to solve there.
Oh, I see.
So my view on that is, yes, we can help people get out, but we should also be able to help them return.
That's good.
Enable them to return home. You know, you have trained them. You have invested into them. You have poured out into them. Now let them go and pass that on to others.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Our guest again, Eric Wowoh, his new book, Return of a Refugee. And is the book affordable?
Yeah, it's affordable. You can get it online on Amazon, Return of a Refugee. And I think online should be $16. There's a Nook version, and there's a Kindle version on it on Amazon. Also, you can find that on Barnes & Noble. We have it there. And then on my website, it's www.returnofarefugee.com, or on the KAJN website, which is www.CANINTL.org. And you can order it. Now, every book that you order, by the way, helps us to advance the work we have going on in Liberia and help to spread the story. Like I said, we all have that story, and my job is to share mine and look forward to hearing from you as to your part in, what's going on here.
Right. Okay. So there's paperback, dust jacket. You can get ebook as well.
Of course.
Right. And again, the book Return of a Refugee shows firsthand how trauma and rejections turns a young African boy into a man. That's right. Committed to sacrificing his everything to transform the lives of others in a hurting world. And this is the author's emotional true life story. You heard a bit of it today. I didn't want to give it all away.
No, you can't do that. You don't want to do that. Let them get a book.
Looking at the book right now, it's very colorful. And what I love about books, lots of pictures that tells the story. It's
a story, yeah.
And it looks like a good read. I haven't read it yet. Are you going to
I'm going to autograph before I leave the studio. Yeah, sure.
Can we give a book away?
It will be my pleasure. Absolutely.
We can give a book away.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Guys, the first person that calls me when you hear this interview and tell me that I want a copy of the book,
you get one autographed copy from Eric, direct. That's a promise. But one opportunity I want to say is that people are asking, how can I get involved with this? This is a story, but there's a work behind the story. There's a glory after the story. So we are not talking about the glory here, but we're talking about the story at this point. Now, what have we been doing is we've been taking teams from Acadiana area to Liberia. And we want people to connect. The intercultural relationship to see what's going on the other side of the lake. Like Jesus would tell the disciples, let's go on the other side, let's see what's happening. And he knew what's up. He knew what they were walking into. And we have a team out of Lafayette every year. We take 2-3 teams down there. You could come to provide medical services, work with the students in the school, work with the local women in the community, have Bible studies if you're interested in doing such thing, or sports, provide sporting activities, or leadership training, or agricultural work. Whatever your set skills are, there's a place for it in Liberia. And you don't have to come and live there. You can come for a week. We will encourage you to think about that. If you are a church, we want to encourage the churches. I've not really done a good job with the churches in the area. And I just want to say that out of the back, that we hope after hearing this interview, some of the churches who really wants to know about global mission, what's happening. And mine is different. I'm from there, and I'm doing the work there. And all I'm asking for is your support to keep me there to do the work. And you can come and visit, and we can fellowship there, and vice versa. That's the key point I wanted to stress.
Right. What do you want people to grasp or understand after reading your book?
What I want them to understand is that no matter your situation, no matter where you are, no matter the negativity or labels that people place on you or society place on you, or even limitation, the environment where you were born, or the story of your birth surrounding your life, it is okay. God has a better plan, a better story. And you want to embrace that story and know that He made you the way He made you. You have no control over that whatsoever. Embrace it. Embrace your purpose. Embrace your identity. And that will lead to a sense of fulfillment in life. Because we live in a culture of confusion and comparison right now. And you want to be able to identify that. And that's what I'm trying to project there. That's why I call Return of a Refugee. I was brought here as a refugee, and I'm returning as a refugee. The same story has not changed, but my mind changed, my heart changed. And that's what I want people to know. That it's okay. That's your story. And that is all you have. Your identity lies in it. So embrace it. Yeah. So people who are going through some rough time right now with the economic situation in the area, a lot of stuff happening across the world. People bitter, fighting, confusion everywhere. It's just to say, let's stop for a moment. Just stop. And remind yourself of the story, where God took you from and where He's brought you. Look back and see where He took you from and how far He's brought you. And that will help you, because when you forget that story, you become ungrateful. You become unappreciative.
I like it that you didn't allow the circumstances that you had to go through to make you bitter, but you embraced it to make you better.
Exactly.
And for His glory.
For His glory, not for anybody else's glory, for His glory. And even the work that I do today is a tough job to be trying to run an international nonprofit in Africa, building schools and taking people, and then having a home here in life here in Louisiana. It's tough, but I'm not doing it for Eric.
Right.
I'm doing it for His kingdom. What He's done for me, I'm just handing that over. I'm just a steward. I'm a pipe. I'm a channel through which these things flow. I'm not to block it. I'm not to keep it. I call it unclogging the pipe. You got to clean that pipe, let it flow properly. Don't put anything in the way, because that leads to heart attack, high blood pressure, stroke. It leads to all kinds of stuff. So what I want people to walk away from is that if Eric could do this, and my story is not Eric. I can never do what Eric did. You don't have to be Eric. Just be you. Just embrace your own story. That's your story. But let the world know.
Speaking of story, get the story. The story of Eric Wowoh. Am I saying the name right? Eric Wowoh, right?
Right. You got it.
Wowoh, Return of a Refugee. And the agent is Change Agent Network. If you want to find out more about them, how they're changing minds, hearts, and lives, again, how can they contact you?
Well, you can contact me online first. That's at our website, www.KAJN-102.9 That's the website. And personal cell phone number is 337 area code 781-4208. Our Dallas office number is 214-890-4062. And email would be Eric Wowoh, which is ERICWOWOH at KAJN-102.9. So I'm going to be in town until June, the first week, and we have a team heading to Africa from Delaware and Maryland, and a few guys from Louisiana here going on this team. We'll be back by the end of July, from Liberia. So we really want to encourage people to get involved, really. This is an opportunity to get involved with something that's much bigger.
Yeah. Thank you for not being bitter. Thank you for allowing what God has allowed you to go through to make you better, so that we can get a hold and grasp what He's trying to do in our lives, which is to give Him glory, all the glory and the honor. And we can still move and have our being, and we can still grow in what we're going through.
That's right. I mean, and I would share this quickly. I was on the plane a couple of months ago, and I was sitting down to a guy, next to the guy on the flight, and we were flying from Europe, and he said to me, what do you do? And I tried to talk to him about what I did, and he said, man, that's the problem. I said, what's the problem? He said, that's why I don't believe in God. I'm not a Christian. I said, oh, you don't believe in God? Why don't you believe in God? He said, Eric, look at what you just told me about. why would God allow all of this craziness to happen, all this trouble? He can fix it if he wants to fix it. And then I look at him after a while, and I said to him, I said, you don't have the authority or the right to ask that question. You got it so good. You have not been through any of those trauma, trouble, death, danger. You've not been. So why are you having issue with God about those things that you've never experienced? You never went through. I should be the one.
Yes.
I should be getting angry, and I'm not getting angry. So what is your problem? And he just looked at me and said, yeah, Americans in the whole world have nothing to complain about. Compared to the rest of the world, 7 billion people, you are at the top of the list. Yeah. So I should be doing the complaining, and you just listen. Yeah, and we got out of the plane, and he's like, thank you for letting me know that.
But when you look at what Jesus went through,
yeah.
Who am I to complain about what I'm going through? Right?
Yeah. So that's what the book is really about, is that let us look at it from a different perspective.
Right. That's good. That's good. Is there a phone number? Maybe someone needs to get in contact with you?
Like I said, it's 337-781-4208. That's my phone number. And the email is Eric Wowoh, EricWowoh, at KAJN-102.9 FM.
All right, guys. He's going to be here till June, so we have lots of time. He needs some teams, some churches, organizations. Maybe you have a ministry you would like to go.
And I would love to speak to people, because this story is a story mostly has to do with young people, in the church. And I think it's a story for everybody. There's a place for everybody in this story. I encourage you to read it. I'm not going to talk about the whole thing. But if you have a speaking opportunity, you want me to come and share more, you want to hear more about it in person, please do not hesitate to give me a call or shoot me an email, and we can set up something. All right. But do it now, because
he's leaving in June. All right. And don't forget about the ministry for the kids. $30 a month.
$30 a month. Yeah. And once you sign up, we will know, and we will reach out to you. We give you the pictures of the kid, and you can pick the one you want to support that God placed on your heart, and that would be your, the person you've chosen to invest into that you've never met before.
And they can find all of this out on your website again?
KAJN-102.9 and you go to the donate button, and it's going to be right there.
God bless you. It's good seeing you again, my friend.
Good seeing you, as always. Thank you so much.
All right. This has been KAJN Talk, a public affairs presentation of KAJN. This program has been pre-recorded.